Well, hello there, folks. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome back to the channel. We've got some exciting things happening. We hope that you'll continue to keep subscribing, liking, and sharing on this channel. We're growing by leaps and bounds. We are very, very excited and very appreciative. We had a nice Unindoctrinate Daily today. Very interesting about Ouija boards, so make sure you take a look at that. And also, here we go. I don't know if I got slammed. I got a very polite nastygram, and I don't mind people that don't agree with me as long as they're polite and courteous. And I had a message from a very polite and courteous individual. I'd call his name, but I forgot it right now. And he said, "You omitted the talk about Noah's generations being perfect." And I explained to him I didn't omit it. I just didn't talk about it. And there's a lot of things in that passage, as you're going to see this next week, that we didn't talk about, and that was one of the things. But him pointing that out to me did give me the motivation to get in and look at it, and it is something worth talking about, and it is something that we should have talked about. And guess what? We're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about Noah, perfect in all his generations, today on the Christian Whistleblower. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and we're going to get right into that. Like, share, subscribe. Find me at jeffreydaugherty.com, christianwhistleblower.com, at Unindoctrinate on Twitter, and also on Facebook. Just look me up and you'll find me there. So let's take a look right now at Noah being perfect in all his generations. So we're ready to rock and roll. And here we are, Noah, perfect in all his generations. It's a Christian Whistleblower revelation. And people say, why don't you put that on all of them? Well, because not all of them are revelations. Some of them are just studies, but this one is revelatory in nature. So that's why we're talking about that. Noah being perfect in all his generations. Let's look at what we're talking about here. This is in Genesis chapter 6, of course, verses 9 and 10. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in all his generations. And Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth. So people are thinking, oh, that doesn't sound too exciting. But many people get very excited about Noah being perfect in his generations. What is that talking about? What does that mean? Well, let's take a look. First of all, we have to establish our baseline. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And again, we've already done this on the past broadcast, but we're going to take a look at what grace means. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So it's in verse number 8. So we're going to take a look, and we're going to see that grace means simply a favor. Noah found grace, but it's why he found grace, which is very interesting. He found favor. He found favor. The Lord found favor in his adornment. Very important. The Lord found favor in his form and his appearance. The Lord found favor in his form and his appearance. The Lord found favor in his form and his appearance, which is very, very important. So why would the Lord find favor or have favor in Noah? Why would he find favor in Noah? And if you weren't so sure enough of that, look at here. It just says in the eyes, in the vision, in the eyes, in the appearance of, and it's down here anthropomorphic as well, I believe it says. Yeah, his physical organs, his anthropomorphic self. The Lord was very impressed with how Noah looked. So Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. The Lord was very, very excited and very, very happy about how Noah looked. And we saw in our last study, and you can find that, and you can see the little bits of the nice picture of my homeland, Donegal, Ireland, that Triona sent to me. Thank you for that. But Noah found grace, he found favor because of his physical form, mainly through the viewing of the Lord. The Lord liked the way Noah looked, and we saw in the Dead Sea Scrolls, Noah, very pale skin, maybe even scaly, Noah with red eyes, and this was after they landed the ark and started, and the first thing they did was ate some blood. That's obviously from a TV show, and I thought it fit rather well. So Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, and then we need to get into the generations. The generations of Noah, who was a just man and perfect in those generations, and Noah walked with God. So let's take a look now at what they're talking about exactly in these generations. So these are the generations of Noah. You've got to look at context. These are the generations of Noah. And there's a colon here because he adds something in that's outside of this immediate narrative. And Noah begat 3 sons. So the literal generations of Noah, here's what he's saying. He's saying is the generations of Noah, the offspring of Noah, were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It's just a little bit of a poetic way to say it. In fact, even when you look at the word generations, it shows that it is mainly a poetic word. So as we look at this in verse number 9, just for all of you skeptics out there, 6 and 9. So when you're talking about it and the generations, these are the generations of Noah. These are the generations, these are the births, these are the accounts. This is the genealogical registration. These are the genealogies and generations. This is the order of the birth. This is the account of men and their descendants. So this is the account of Noah's descendants. And the account of Noah's descendants is that he had Shem, he had Ham, he had Japheth. Those are the generations of Noah, strictly textually speaking. Now, it's also important to notice that Noah was a just and perfect man. This is the same exact language used about Job. I want to call your attention to that in Job 1:1. Job was perfect and upright, feared God. And of course, we just saw that Noah was perfect in his generations. He walked with God. He was a follower of the Elohim, Noah was, initially. So this verse 9 really says, these are the generations of Noah, who, by the way, was a just man, and his generations, his children even worshipped the Elohim as well. As we look back at 6:9 in the interlinear, we'll see that. See, this stuff really isn't hard when you don't have any axes to grind. Noah was a righteous man, blameless. There was no blame because people were, they were blameless, they were complete, they were entire, they were unblemished in his time, which means, of course, his generations, the time that he was dwelling, and it has a inference of going forward as well. So Job did as well, but definitely in this case, Noah was a man that worshiped the Elohim. He was a man who taught his children to worship the Elohim, and like Job, he was a just being and an upright being. So and Noah walked with God. If you look back, and I left that part off, and Noah walked with God. If we look back at verse 9 again, we'll see that Noah, in 9, it'll show us that he walked with the Elohim. 6:9, and he walked with the Elohim. So Noah was a good guy, which makes you wonder why in the world, if he was a good guy, and if he was worshiping the Elohim, then why in the world did a God that considered the Elohim worshiping world as corrupt, a God that considered the Elohim worshiping world violent, a God that considered the Elohim worshiping world corrupt and that they had all gone corrupt upon the earth. Remember Job chapter 1, marrying, giving in marriage, worshiping the Elohim. Genesis chapter 6, marrying, giving in marriage, worshiping the Elohim. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, perfect earth, populated cities, culture, worshiping the Elohim. Job, tempted by the Lord, did not turn and follow the Lord, stayed with the Elohim. But for some reason, which is very, very interesting to me, even though Noah wasn't on Team Yahweh, still Yahweh found Noah highly pleasing. Why in the world did Noah find such grace in the eyes of the Lord? And it didn't escape the notice of the Elohim. Because the Elohim in Genesis 6:13 said, and the Elohim, and it says, and God said to Noah, the end of all flesh is about to come upon the earth. The earth is about to be filled with violence, and it will be destroyed. The Elohim were saying to Noah, look, we know that the Lord is wooing you. We know that the Lord is filling you with flatteries and talking you up and trying to get you to do his bidding. But we want you to know that he is trying to destroy all of your brothers and sisters. He's trying to destroy the earth. And we're afraid that he may be able to. So the Elohim saw Noah being wooed by the Lord. They appealed to him in Genesis 6:13, told him what the Lord was really up to. But ultimately, Noah still opted to side with the Lord. Noah still opted to side with the Lord, even after direct intervention from the Elohim. So the few things that we do know, we know that Noah was a just man. He was a righteous man. He was a man that worshiped the Elohim. We know that he taught his sons to worship the Elohim, and they were just men. So Noah and his sons, perfect in their generations, all followed the Elohim. And yet, in spite of the fact that Noah was following the Elohim, in spite of the fact that Shem, Ham, and Japheth or Japheth, or whatever his name was, were following the Elohim, despite the fact that Noah and his family was doing exactly the same damn thing that Job and his family were doing, the Lord hated Job, but he just loved him some Noah. And we can know why. The Lord hated Job, but he loved him some Noah. And the two were doing the exact same things. And it's a conundrum. It's a riddle. It's really, it makes you crazy to think about it. And the scripture tells us why, but it's hard to understand, because really the reason that Job loved Noah so much was because his appearance was super pleasing to the Lord. You've seen it in the Hebrew. His appearance, Noah's appearance, made him super pleasing to the Lord. Why? Well, we've seen through the Dead Sea Scrolls and through the fact that the Lord, the reptilian God, the Lord, loved him some Noah. From that, we know that Noah outwardly manifested far more reptilian traits. This really is a very accurate picture of the description that we have, the parabiblical description that we have, and the biblical descriptions that we have of Noah. His skin was white. I think it was also scaly. I can't prove it. It's kind of implied, but I can't prove it. His eyes were red and reflective like a crocodile's. If I go out here on my lake and shine out a light, and boom, I'm going to see alligator eyes just like this. Now, the question that I have, and I think we're going to be diving into this even more next week, was Noah's manifesting of outward reptilian traits? Because all the other human, the hybrids between reptilians and people, they were, and at this time probably just the human people, they were all human looking. That's why the Lord didn't like him. That's why the Lord didn't like Job, because he was too human looking. But yet Noah manifested this reptilian traits. Was it a random mutation, or was Noah a hybrid of the majestic serpents and a human woman? We'll get more into that next week. Very, very interesting question. But at any rate, the Lord wooed Noah, and Noah rejected the Elohim for the Lord. So Noah arguably supplanted Enoch as the most heinous member of the human family to date by rejecting the Elohim, accepting the Lord, and then doing his bidding in a global, catastrophic thing that murdered almost everyone on the planet. Noah, dude, what were you thinking? What were you drinking? Remember, he had trouble. So, again, we see that Noah was a just man. Noah's sons were just men. All of them followed the Elohim. Yet the Lord saw something he loved in Noah when he hated Job, who was doing the same exact things. And we see from comparing Scripture with Scripture, it had to be because Noah manifested as a reptilian outwardly. So the Elohim said, Noah, don't listen to him. He's a rat bastard. But the Lord's deal was too good, and Noah took up the Lord on his deal. And Noah became arguably the greatest traitor in the history of the human race. I got another one in mind, but we'll hold on to that. But Noah became the greatest traitor in the history of the human race. And speaking of race, I'm quite sure that the Lord played the race card. I'm sure the Lord went to Noah and said, look, man, you don't look like them. How long is it going to take before they turn on you? Look, man, you look like me. You and me, we need to team up. I know they're pretending to worship me now, but dude, they don't love me. Look at me. I mean, I look like you. I'm a reptilian god. You're a reptilian humanoid. You look mostly like reptilian. Look at those other people. They look like people, right? Humans. Human. You look like the majestic serpents. How long before they turn on you, bro? And if they turn on you, what are they going to do to your kids? So whatever he said, I'm pretty sure the Lord played the race card. And Noah caved where Job stood strong, where Job was faithful even unto death, where Noah followed Enoch's way. He left the Elohim and started following the Lord. And I'm sure it was because the Lord played the race card. And guess what? Since that day to this, it's been all about race ever since. Not black, white, but, well, white and not white. If you kind of notice my little artful depiction here, there's a reptilian in the background there. But it has been about race ever since, but not in the way you think. Not necessarily black, white, etc. But the race between people that were, and this is where I have to believe I'm leaning towards, and we're studying and going to look at it together, that Noah was a hybrid between the majestic serpents and a human woman. Could Noah be? Could the seed of the serpent idea be true, and could it be Noah? Oh, Jeff, the seed of the serpent's Cain. Listen, bro. Listen, sis. We're living in an opposite world here. It's like George Costanza, Seinfeld, opposite world. If the government whatever the government tells you, you can pretty much believe the opposite. Whatever big-time religion tells you, which is the same thing as government, you can pretty much believe the opposite. This is opposite world. And I don't believe it was Cain, and we're going to get into that. May take tomorrow off, may not, who knows. But our next broadcast on the channel here, we'll be talking about Cain, Abel, and we may get into the seed of the serpent as well. So ever since, and you know, it makes perfect sense, who started this whole racial thing? Racial imbalance, racial inharmony, disharmony, racial warfare has been going on ever since the Lord said to Noah, hey bro, you look different, they aren't like us. The Lord, Yahweh, Yaldabaoth, Jehovah, rat bastard. He's the one that started racism. And we're still having to live life from a deck of race cards today. So could the seed of the serpent be true? Could it be Noah and not Cain? I don't know about you. But I know I want to Noah. So I don't know about you. That's funny. So we'll be back on our next broadcast to talk about Cain, Abel, talk about the seed of the serpent, talk about the curse of Cain, talk about Cain and Abel's offerings. Man, I'm telling you, opposite world. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so now. Hit the button. If you haven't hit the bell in the upper corner, hit the bell. And like and share. If you have questions, if you have comments, let me know. And this is just going to get more and more interesting from here. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. You've heard me on Coast to Coast. You've enjoyed these videos. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell. Make sure that you don't miss anything else. Because, man, I'm telling you, we are just getting started. We're just getting started helping you unwind your mind. We're just getting started helping you unindoctrinate yourself.